Welcome to Saltx Technology Holding AB's first interim report for this year, 2021. Carl-Johan Linné here, and with my side I have Harald Bauer, CFO also.
Good morning.
And I will take you through some slides now and make a presentation of what has happened during the first quarter this year. And we will, of course, have time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. But again, very welcome to this information report discussions. So we will put you in the arena directly, Saltx Technology arena, that we are an award-winning company with energy storage as a focus area in Stockholm. The latest award was actually the one in Helsingfors Energy Challenge. We'll come back to that later on, but that was a challenge that how to become climate neutral by year 2035. So they really took a helicopter perspective and looked into what sort of technologies could be used to make that happen. But I'll come back to that later on. We have a worldwide patent covered our nanotechnology salt material technology as a base, and in this quarter that we have done now, we have continued to specialize the function salt together with the reactor. I will come back to that later on. And we have a pretty clear roadmap of commercialization in front of us. The key takeaway here, normally you take the key takeaway maybe at the end, but here we take it in the beginning also. We have this scalable technology, which means that you can have one megawatt size on charging and another one on discharging. We have very good, strong technical key partners that we're working together with. More of that later on also. The unique storage solution is really the way that we could store the energy in salt, environmental friendly salt independently of time. So exactly the same amount of energy that we charge, we will be able to discharge in regardless of time. So, and for the right-hand side of this picture, you see that we are connected to the UN's overall target things, and really that we are doing a benefit for the customer and the climate and the society. The first quarter has been it's been a lot of actions, and a lot of things has happened. We have certainly been very busy in various areas. The latest one that we have sent out a press release of is that we have decided to build a new energy storage in Lulea. So we have actually signed an MOU agreement with Lulea Energy, Luleå Kraft, and Sverim, and we're going to build a 1 megawatt size of energy storage with a capacity of 15 megawatt hours. And this will be done after that we have finalized the Stockholm energy storage that I will come to later on also. So we already, before we have finalized Stockholm, we know what to do after Stockholm. So that's good. We are very happy about this, because this is also the first storage installation that we actually charge with heat, waste heat, and that's a significant good case for the climate, but also for the business case. Secondly, we are one of 4 winners of Helsinki Energy Challenge. As I mentioned in the beginning, was more than 250 applications that came into Helsinki city. It was actually the mayor of Helsingfors who was the initiator of this project, and we are of course very proud that we are one of the 4 winners of this one. And it actually had to do with how to make the best solution for Helsinki to be climate neutral until 2035, utilizing the assets that they had already and combining new technology, as we think we have, with a mature technology. And we have had last week we had the first discussion with Helen, which is a local utility in Helsingfors. How would the next step be now? And this will be an ongoing discussion, and hope we are very, of course, honored to be in that discussion with them directly and see how we can help in this transition to become climate neutral. Thirdly, we have also entered into a partnership with a company called Saltx, based in Sydney. That's why we have a picture of the Opera House in Sydney there. And it's a company that are specializing in charging reactor on a sort of technology called falling bed. And that is what we are going to use, technology we're going to use in Stockholm, as well as in Lulea also. And here we have a very good cooperation with colleagues. We have weekly meeting with them, and we have a close cooperation with them. Looking back in time to describe our milestones, the most important ones are, as you can see here, we actually started 2013 with a nano coating patent that we got a okay for, and 2016 we were actually listed on the Nasdaq First North. EnerStore 2017 we actually built a concept solution in Stockholm office outside of Stockholm in this container, as you can see there, and we actually secured that the technology in a smaller scale was working. From that, we took the decision to go large scale directly into Berlin case. That was actually opened up 2019 in April. But that case, we actually started to build that case for about 12 months prior to April 2019. Now we are in Stockholm. We're building it, we're optimizing the Berlin pilot plant. We're optimizing that by putting into another fluid as bed reactor that is fully scalable, and that is ongoing as we speak, and we will make that pilot installation complete with a charging reactor also later on. At the moment, we only have the discharging reactor in place, more or less. We will continue with the charging reactor later on. And the Helsinki Challenge, how to become neutral, climate neutral, 2035. We are one of the winners. We're very proud of that. And that has actually opened up a few doors for our discussion with other customers and partners and projects, and people are really highlighting this, and they see that who is Saltx and how can they become a winner. So that's a good thing for us. And also now 2022, as we say here, that we mean by that is that the installation will be in service 2022. We will start to put the installation in place at the end of this year, but it will be finalized during 2022. And again, the beauty with this installation is that we are using gas and heat as a waste to charge the salt, and then we are distributing the heat and in the district heating, and also to the nearby industry, of course. Peak shifting we have talked about, and that's very important when it comes to renewable. The renewable is increasing steadily, and we know from a discussion with experts that if you should increase the renewable by 100, you need to have about 1/5 of that as an energy storage capacity. So 1/5 of the renewable production capacity needs to be stored to overcome the volatility of renewable energy, really. So that helps us, and that's a good part for us, and we see a tremendous increase in interest in this area, of course. And it's also the fact that it varies between, the demand varies between cities and industry, of course, but in principle, this is the way of doing it, to charge the salt with cheap peak energy and to sell it in when it's more needed in an expensive way. Just to put us into the map of energy capacity and the storage time, we are up to the right hand side here. We want to store a capacity of 10 megawatt hours or more. That's our field. That's where we are best, and also that we can then store the energy for hours, days, weeks, months, without losing anything. So there are a number of technologies and different ways of energy storages, and we think that there's not only one solution to cover the needs in the future, but we are really focusing on this side here. Yes. How does this work then? It works like that. We have the calcium hydroxide. We put in energy in the form of electricity or heat, and we have having a process at 550 degrees Celsius where we have the steam H2O goes away, and left the calcium oxide will be stored as the battery, you can say, and that could then be stored as long as you want without losing energy. And once you want to discharge, you add 120 degrees steam, and you will have a quite explosive, not explosion, but a very, very fast reaction where you will get out 450 degrees Celsius as an energy. And that energy could then be used in electricity, making electricity or making heat, or both as a combination, as a matter of fact. We are working on 3 major application areas, product applications. We have the heat to heat. That is actually Lulea, where we charge with heat and we discharge with heat. And this is really a very, very interesting segment of the industry. The target market is really the steel, glass, and ceramics. And why is that? Well, that's the industry that have a high temperature that we need, 550 degrees. And we are one of the few, if not the only one, that could actually utilizing this high temperature to create high steam value. In the middle, we have the power to steam, and that is actually Berlin, that we are utilizing fossil-free electricity to charge the salt, and then we are taking out the steam to the district heating in Berlin at 120 degrees. We take it out, and to the very right-hand side, we see the power to power, and that is more at the moment a concept that we have, but the target is really that we need to get in contact with the grid operators and the wind and solar farms. So, but there we are not yet. We are heat to heat and power to steam is our main focus at the moment, and this. It's really, really important that we take the total responsibility for every application area, and we are learning and we are building competence in our company. Looking on the platform as we have, this is the way it looks like. We're charging with heat, gas, electricity, and as you see the charger reactor, and that's a Saltx reactor that is built like that, where you put the salt on the top and you heat it on the way down, and in the bottom you will get out calcium oxide, which then will be the charged salt silo. And once you are releasing it, then you add the 120 degrees Celsius steam, and you could take out the heat electricity. So and in parallel of this, you can say also that that the control system, the process automation control system, is very important to control this process, and that is certainly also an area where we are building competence and knowledge how to do this, because this is going to be very important. The charger, we work with Saltx, as I said. The discharging, we work with the Sumitomo Fossewille, a global, well-known, Japanese-owned Finnish company. Work together with them, and they both Saltx and Sumitomo, they are supplying the reactors to Stockholm, but they will also supply the reactors to Lulea later on. And as a base, in this complete installation, as a base, we have the nano-coated salt, which is our core technical platform. Looking at Lulea, we call it a game changer, and I think it is like that, because the utilizing the heat in industry is a sort of untouched area a little bit, especially at this temperature range. And we know that there is a lot of waste in this area. We've seen figures of 120 terawatt hours as waste in Europe at 500 degrees or more, and that is really our target. And comparing to the entire Swedish using electricity, almost the same. It's slightly more in Sweden, but it's in that range. So what we're doing is really that we are building a pilot installation now in Lulea. We're going to build that in after the summer, and as a pre-step to the phase number 2, and that phase number 2 will then replace the oil as they are using today in this steel production. And we will then replace oil, 10 gigawatt hour in capacity of oil that we will take out and replacing that by Saltx. And that's we are preventing more than 3,000 ton CO2 to pollute our air, but also we have a more climate friendly solution here. We think that working together with Sverim, which is a government branch organization for metal industry, we would think that we would have some good reference, and that they could share this pilot installation with other steel plants around the world. So we hope that we could get in contact with a lot of other possible customers here through them. The ecosystem that we have showed that before. For the technical platform, we are using Nordkalk as a supplier, and Wacker as a nano-coating material supplier, and Sumitomo Saltx is the key suppliers for the reactors. But then we have then application partners, as we call it, and Sverim is certainly one of them, and Enerco and Shangliang Boilers in China is application partners. Looking on the power to power, it's pretty. There's nothing there, so we need to build that later on, of course. But for the heat to heat, we have these end customer partners, Lulea Energy and Lulea Kraft, which is very important. Open up a lot of new opportunities, we think. And the power to steam, we have Vattenfall, and particular Vattenfall in Berlin, but also we have an ongoing discussion with Vattenfall about the other solutions, not only in Berlin, we also talk to them, of course, in Sweden about various opportunities. The drivers for the market growth, I think that we see that on the news and in the paper and social media every day, more or less, that things are happening in the right way. So we get a lot of energy of that, of course. The latest is maybe that Joe Biden was actually taking US back to the Paris Agreement. Xi Jinping in China also addressed to get climate neutral by 2060. It's a long way there, but still there's a target. And we also know that the pressure is on to install more and more renewable. And by the renewables, there is also a strong need. It's a must to have 1/5 of that installed capacity as energy storage. And that is really the very, very important driver for the storage application. Having this doesn't mean that Saltx will be the only supplier for energy storage, but I mean the market is really huge for this area. So we are one of we hope to be one of the suppliers. The new green era is there. There's a lot of general public on pushes, and it's on the UN agenda and everywhere. So certainly we think that those 3 areas here is really supporting us and give us a lot of courage to continue our development. Looking on a competitive landscape situation, we know that that we are on a 500 degrees Celsius temperature range. We have a very, very high density, 500-600 kilowatt hours per ton. Compared to concrete and compared to water, we are far better than that. And also that it's possible to store the energy for months or weeks or so. But also I think one of the really good thing is that we are utilizing the environmental friendly material, which is fully recyclable, and there's not a lack of that material, and there was certainly a lot of it available, and that I think that's a very good part of this. And the material itself, it's safe. It's not flammable, and there's no high pressure working with it. And last but not least, it's also possible to transport this material. You can charge it in one place, and you can move it in time and geographical place to another place to discharge it, which is also very good. And once you've done that, you take it back to the charging place again, so you have a circular economy. On the right-hand side, you see the density, the blue staple, and compared to some other competitors. You also see the yellow bar, which is the CAPEX euro per kilowatt hours. So we are in the range of it's a plus minus, of course, but in the range of 120 euro per kilowatt hours, which is in the same range as the other competitors. It's a little bit difficult to compare maybe hot water tank with our solution, since the water tank is less than 90 degrees Celsius. But really, you can say that if you go big, our competitiveness will improve if you do on the bigger size. Looking on the roadmap for commercialization, we are in sort of between the development phase and the commercial phase at the moment. We are at the end of the development phase that we see it. We have the nano-coated salt as a base, and then we are building the pilots for Stockholm, Lulea, and by doing that we will build competence and value So we Saltx take the full responsibility of all of the pilot installations. To do that, we will know exactly how we will build the complete in the commercial phase later on. So what we will do, the revenue stream will actually be that we will sell the nano-coated salt based on the competence and the experience that we have built up during the pilots. We will be able to tell the application partners how to build those energy storage installations and what sort of material, what sort of reactors they will be utilizing in combination with the process automation control system, of course, also very important. So the business idea is that we will set up a license agreement and that we will get the revenue stream based on that. And in some cases, there might also be a possibility to look to be a service provider of the material. So in the bottom, you see the arrow of moving ahead from left-hand side to the right-hand side. And that's very, very important. And we are on the threshold to be taking the steps into commercial phase. But there are big pilots. It takes time to build them. It takes 12 months to build them. It takes another couple of months to evaluate the test results and all those things. So what I'm saying is that be patient with us, and we will come to the commercialization as soon as we can. And the plan is really that until the end of position 2023, we will be in the yellow squares here. Looking on the heat to heat, we think that we will be in the pre-commercial at the end of that one. We are at the large pilot now, in the beginning of a large pilot, and that is Lulea. Power to steam, we have done the large pilot, that was Berlin. We are now into the end of the optimization, which is Stockholm. And there we are planning to be at the end of pre-commercialization by 2023. Power to power, we are on a concept base at the moment. And by 2023, we think that we will be building a small pilot to demonstrate the storage. Go to market. I talked about Shanghai, Stockholm, Luleå. Now looking on 2023, we're building power to steam, heat to heat in bigger sizes, as you can see. And and as you can see, that aluminium case here, that's also an opportunity that we are talking to some customers in, because they have the same temperature as the steel. So we of course have a number of projects that we are discussing, and we think that once we have built the Lulea, there will be a door opener to that sort of industry that are interested in utilizing the waste heat that they have. 2024, we will have the first commercial projects, and whether that will be a 5 megawatt or 120 megawatt hours exactly, we don't know that, of course, but we think that it's a suitable range to start the commercial projects. So now I've talked a lot. Harald, you will say a few words about the key figures, financial situation.
Yes, thank you, Carl-Johan. Referring back to what Carl-Johan has presented, one can note from our financials that our spending rate has increased during the two last quarters and will continue to do so. So in addition to just the funding the organization, financing the organization, the burn rate, we are now investing in Stockholm primarily for the steps in that pilot plant, and going forward to the latter part of this year, we will then go into finance Luleå. We are depending on and relying on public funding as well, as we've done through the existence of our company, from EU, from Energimyndigheten, and from Vinnova and others. But in addition to that, we will fund these pilots ourselves together with our partners to a certain extent also. And that's the major thing to understand from our key figures end of Q1.
Okay. Time for questions and answers. There's one question about Shanghai here. That was maybe from the first presentation. Yeah. But I don't know if I said that or not. But I mean the Shanghai Shangliang boilers, as they call it. They are building the pilot installations now, and they are in the final building it, and they will start up the testing very soon.
Here is a question: plans, contacts, discussions for the North American market or other markets for more cooperation agreements and pilots? Maybe you want to refer to the US tonight.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, the US market will be huge, and they will have a tremendous need. And the good thing with US is that they are utilizing steam in a much higher way than we are doing in Europe. But I think it's a question of focus and capacity from our side. We have a few leads from US, but we have not. Well, we don't have the capacity really to focus on US at the moment. We like to do the pilots as we have talked about before, and after that we might take that step. That's my input.
What I can add to that is that when we built Berlin, it called for a great number of resources, just as Berlin is not Stockholm. So even though the pandemic led to us building this pilot in Stockholm rather than to continue to expand it in Berlin, the advantage is that Stockholm is in our backyard. So it's easier for us. And same thing with Luleå, it's in the Swedish home market. And there we are exploring and developing, optimizing our technology, which can then be brought out to many other markets, US included. On top of that, we have mentioned our cooperation in China, and we've also mentioned briefly our cooperation with Enerco, based in Spain, with potential. So, of course, we are reaching out to the world market as well, even though we continue the development on our home turf. Yeah.
All right. It doesn't seem to be any more questions. So by that, I think we close this session. And thank you for listening and taking part of this interim report. And
thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later on. Thank you. Bye-bye.